So you want to get into reloading, and you're not sure what kind of press to get. I started off with the XL650. A lot of people said that the progressive press would be, too advanced, too much stuff going on. But I liked it. It's what I wanted. I wanted something that was going to pump out ammo, and I learned how to use it. It really was not very difficult. Some people might find it difficult, but I don't know. It wasn't that hard. If you take your time and you pay attention, you can learn it, pretty fast. It's really not that complicated of a machine. A lot of people will tell you to use a single stage press. That's fine. But I learned how to reload on this progressive machine. So if you want to get into it and you want to pump out a lot of ammo, just go ahead and buy one. Just go for it. So when you get your machine, you're going to be in a rush to put it all together and just stop making ammo. Just take your time. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I recommend starting off with the progressive press. I think if you do it the way I'm going to show you how to do it, it'll set you up for success. You're not going to be wasting a bunch of ammo, and you're not going to hurt yourself. So take your time, and once you feel comfortable, then go for it. Alright, so you should already have your press set up. If you need a video on how to set up the dies, I can do that later, but it's pretty straightforward. You should also have your shell plate and locator buttons, all that stuff, so the press is ready to go. Now what I recommend to do is on this side of the press, you have this block right here. So I would remove that. Now what this block does is it slides right up against this lever right here. I don't know if you can see that. And what that does is it indexes the priming system. So you see that now I got a primer there. So as the press comes up, that little black block hits this little lever and rotates the dial there, giving you a new primer. So by removing it, it will not automatically place a new primer. So basically, that primer will stay there until I put it into a case. And that's what we want. Alright, so to insert a case, I'm going to put my hand in the back here, grab this block, slide it back, and then there'll be a little opening for a case to fit. You see right in the back there? So we're going to drop the shell right in the back, and let's let this come down nice and easy. And then you're going to nudge the handle forward a little bit, and that'll fully seat it all the way into the shell plate. So that's station number 1, and that's going to be sizing and depriming. So we can bring that up, size it, deprime it. And if you notice, my press probably looks a little bit different from yours. I have this fitting here underneath where the spent primers go, with a rubber tube that goes to a bottle on the floor. So all my primers go into a bottle on the floor instead of the little bin. So now it auto-indexed to station 2, and this is going to be the priming and the powder charge. So go ahead and prime it. You know, let that seat all the way down, and now it's primed. And get used to pulling these out. Alright, so let's give it some powder. Go ahead and take your locator out. This little button here, don't lose them. You can pull this right out. I'm going to weigh this. Alright, so I got 5 grains. That's about what I want. So adjust your powder measure accordingly. Alright, so go ahead and put the shell in station number 4. Now we're going to seat a bullet. So place a bullet on the top. You should have a little bit of a bell here, so that it'll sit nice. And then seat the bullet. Go ahead and pull that out and check it out. .13. I like it. Now that's station number 5, and that's going to give it a slight crimp. And there she is. All set, ready to shoot. Now by doing this, you'll get the feel of each station as it goes. And it's really not that slow. So, shell goes in. Size, D-prime. Next station is the priming. Now you're going to have to index it. There's no primer there right now. So to do that, you just hit this little lever right on the side here. Let me show you that a little bit better. So you got this lever right here, right where my thumb is. Now if the press is down a little tiny bit, you won't be able to push it because the priming rod is through the little hole. So I kind of hold this a little bit with 2 fingers. Kind of put 2 fingers on this to hold it, come around, and just, I mean, you'll feel it when it's in between priming and cycling the press up. So right there, that's it. And all you gotta do is just cycle this. So there it is, your primer. Seat the primer. Powder. Now go ahead and weigh it. Fantastic. So then we'll seat it. Grab a bullet. Next station, give it a little crimp. And off it goes. See you later. Right into the bin. Alright, so let's load some more. Now sometimes one of these will get fed from the case feeder upside down. Just like that. And you'll get nothing there. But this is already spring loaded, so it's trying to bring it in. So while you have shells in all the other stations, you have to figure out how to fix it. So that's one reason I recommend running it one shell at a time until you get the feel for everything. Because that's all you got to do is basically pull this back, fix the shell to the right spot, put it in, and you don't have to disrupt anything else. So let's get us a primer. Prime it. Powder. Measure it. Excellent. A bullet. Seat it. Crimp it. And there she is. Primer, powder, bullet. Now you see me skip this one. This is just a powder check system. I don't have it installed because every time the shell plate will go up, I'll get a beep, so I'm bypassing that. Bullet. Crimp. And there it is. Fantastic. Now sometimes you run into some stubborn primer pockets where the primer just doesn't want to sit all the way. So sometimes the primer goes in kind of cockeyed. So all you got to do sometimes is just spin this a little bit and work it. Careful not to pop them. You don't want to put too much stress on it. You have to get used to the feeling of the primer seating. So if you run into any ones that are difficult to prime, just put them aside and do them when you get the hang of it. Do all the easy ones for now. If you run into one that's a little bit difficult, take it out, put it to the side, and after you loaded 1,000 of them, go back to it and then mess around with it, because then you have the feeling in your hand. You know exactly how much force to give it. Another thing you want to get a habit into doing is always pushing this forward, because that will seat the primer. If you forget to seat the primer and you go through all the stations, you're just going to end up with powder everywhere. And I've done it. I'm sure most people have. So it's a mistake you learn to correct. But I always get into the habit. I always start all the way down and then come back all the way up. Come down and push down. See how simple that is? And then all you gotta do is wash one case and concentrate on one thing at a time, and you don't have everything else distracting you while you're starting off. Now after you've already measured your powder, you measured the overall length and the crimp, you can put these locator buttons back in. And that'll help keep the cases centered in the shell plate. And always get in the habit of looking inside the case so you can see powder. Look at that. I forgot to put a bullet on it. Daydreaming. Now, I would recommend doing at least 1,000 this way. Go through a whole brick of primers. That way you get the hang of it. You'll understand how everything works. You'll have plenty of mishaps that you've learned to correct, and you don't have to worry about all the other stations being affected. And once you feel confident, put the block back in and start going. And look at that, I already ran into an issue. Alright, so what did I do? It looks like this isn't all the way seated. And that'll happen. So I need to get that shell out. Usually I always have an Allen wrench sitting around the bench, so I'm going to come down a little bit. I didn't get the powder charge yet, so I'm going to come down just a little bit. I don't want to cycle this, so if I come down all the way, it's going to cycle. And I'm still holding on to the arm here, so it doesn't come down, because it'll come down slamming on you. Alright, so that looks like it's a little messed up. So you know what? I got another box here. Put that right in there. Bring it right in. Beautiful. Now nothing's disrupted. You got powder there. Primer. That one's all the way in the shell plate. Good. And I don't know if you could hear that. That primer pocket probably had a little burr on it, so it's fighting its way through the burr. We need to add some more shells. Like I said, always push down first, because sometimes you'll forget to seat the primer. So whenever I come back to it, I seat the primer again, you know. Yeah, seating the primers have a distinctive feeling to it. You come to the end of the press cycle here, and right there, that's the primer right there. You can feel it. And it's almost like a sponge. Then you keep pushing, and it's seating it, and then it stops. So that was it. Alright, here's a problem that you will most likely encounter. The shell feeding system didn't pick up a shell. So let's see what happened. And it looks like either there's a 40, maybe it's a 45 that's stuck in there. Or 9mm stuck inside the case. So let me set the camera up and we'll fix this. Alright, so let's try to fix this. I think the easiest way to do this is to take this tube out and then just clear it. So shut the case feeder off so it doesn't keep feeding tubes. Pull the tube out. I want to pull this up a little bit and catch the shells so they don't all slide out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just dump these right back in the case feeder. Pull this up. Now this is going to have probably 4 shells in it too, so catch those. Alright, so here's our problem. So it's a 40 case with a 9mm stuck in it. So that'll hold it all up. And that's pretty good because it caught it there instead of me trying to deprime and resize that. So I probably should have went through my brass a little bit better, but it caught the issue right here. Just put that back in, get rid of the 9mm. And fill it back up. Alright, so I've always caught these before they went into the press. Or should I say, before they went into the die. But I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with a 9mm case stuck inside of a 40 when I go to put it in the resizing die. So, let's try it out. Alright, so it definitely gets really, really hard. So you'll definitely know, and then you'll see it. So to fix this, because you know what, I don't think it got powder or anything, didn't even seat the bullet. So I would come down just a little bit, get my handy dandy Allen wrench here, try to bring it out, pull this. Oh, I can't even get the 9mm out of this. There we go. Oh, and believe it or not, it deprimed the 9mm and stuck the primer right inside the 40 case. Oh, now it's on the shell plate. So you know what? I'm going to still use this brass. Stick it right back in the track there. Let's get this primer out of here. Send it right down the primer chute. Bring the case back in and finish it. Perfect. Now one other thing you're going to notice is I have an extra primer that's going to drop into the pan over here that's not used. The reason why there's a primer sitting over here now is because I came up with the press, wasn't able to finish it, I came back down, so that reset the primer for a new primer. You understand? And then I came back up, so that's why there's an extra primer over here. Here's my little spent primer setup that I use. Just a bottle and then some tubing that goes up underneath where the depriming pin goes with that little fitting. And then I don't have to worry about emptying that little bin, because I used to forget all about it. And then it would back all up and everything. So now I don't really have to worry about it. Here's another problem that you sometimes run into. Sometimes when it's feeding cases, it doesn't drop fast enough and it gets stuck right here. So you'll hear it. You'll hear the motor kind of winding down, and you notice you won't hear them dropping down the case feed tube. So just stop the motor and take it out. Looks like there's another one right behind it.
311 is 91, leaving car 16.
And that's how you fix that. A lot of people ask me how much money I save by reloading. And the honest question is, you don't save any money. This press and all the equipment has already paid for itself. But you don't save any money. You know, normally if you go to the range, you know, maybe you'll go with, you know, one box of 50, you know, 38 special. And that's your range trip. When I go to the range now, this is a normal range trip for me. You know, 100 rounds, 357 Magnum. And then 100 rounds of 10 millimeter. So, this is just a regular range trip. So you don't save any money by reloading. You just shoot a lot more. So, if that's what you want to do, you know, it's definitely worth getting into reloading. Another thing I like about reloading is you usually always have stuff to shoot. And now that you can find stuff, I would recommend, you know, at least once a month to, you know, buy a few things. And then you always have it on hand. These are the SS-109 steel penetrator bullets. Well, the green tips, minus the green tip. And when you couldn't find anything, you know, I had a little bit left of these. And then I went online trying to find them, and you couldn't find them anywhere. They were all gone. So the only thing I was able to find were the tracers, the 62 grain tracer heads. So after the buying frenzy, this is what I was shooting pretty much exclusively, was tracers out of my gun. I mean, they were pretty cheap. You know, they weren't that accurate, but while everyone else was hoarding onto their ammo and not going to the range, I was still able to go to the range and at least shoot. Unfortunately, I don't think these really light up until 100 yards, so the range I was going to was only 100 yards. So you couldn't really see them light up. Sometimes they would light up, you know, in the berm. But yeah, these were cheap. So while everyone else is not shooting, you're still able to shoot most of the time. So I recommend at least now, you know, start buying some stuff here and there. Every time I pass the gun store, I stop in and I grab some primers. I just grabbed an 8-pound keg of powder today. So that way when another buying frenzy happens, and it will happen again, you know, it happens time and time again, you're going to have stuff on hand, and you're not going to be panicking, and you don't have to worry about going to Walmart or the gun store trying to find ammo. Another thing I recommend you do when you start reloading is come up with a way to keep count of how many rounds you make. I never really did that. I just recently started, and what I do is when you have, you know, a brick of primers and you use them up, I'm just gonna start tearing the end off, and I'll put these away. So that way I know, you know, this was 1,000 rounds I ran through this machine. Because I honestly don't even know, you know, how many rounds I've put through this. I mean, it's going to be over 30,000 now. So come up with some sort of system to keep track of how many rounds that you make.
Follow the unit, slow down, won't assist.
Getting down to the end.
Very loud. All units 9-1.
Now this sometimes happens. The shell plate's not going to go all the way down because the rim of this case is stuck in the shell plate. So you don't want to force it because you don't want to break the index plastic piece. So usually if you just work it slightly, and the camera's in the way, but let me see if I can get my fingers in there. If you twist it, and right there, there it is. And that's it. But you'll feel it. Just don't be an animal. Alright, so I'm getting close to the end of loading up these 40s. And I'm about to run out of primers, I think, on the next stroke. And I want to see how many primers are left once the alarm goes off. Because that's what I'm going to stop. So there it is. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, that's it. Now I'm out. See how free that is? This does not need powder, so take this one out. And I don't need to deprime and size this one, so I'm going to slide this back. Allen wrench. Take that right out of there. Don't need that one. So I got 2 left. Alright. And that was 1,000 rounds. So out of 1,000 rounds, looks like I got 15 extras. And these I'll just put in a little Ziploc bag, put them aside, and next time I load I'll just throw them in there. So let's see how we made out.
Very nice.